Presentations Part 1. Open the presentation, speak with emphasis, refer to visuals. Getting the audience's attention. You have to make a presentation about finance or any other subject where you have to give a lot of figures. How can you catch the attention of your audience? Tick all the strategies you would use. Would you skip the introduction to save time? No. Would you talk fast so that you finish sooner? Certainly not. Would you use simple language with short sentences? Yes, you would. Would you give lots of details and background information? No, it's not necessary. Would you show colourful visuals? Yes, you would. Would you be enthusiastic? Yes, definitely. Would you speak calmly and quietly? This is a serious subject. Well, sometimes it depends on the subject. Would you read from a carefully prepared script? Not necessarily. Would you keep eye contact with the audience? Yes, you would. Would you ask questions from time to time? Yes, you can do that to see if people understand what you're talking about. If you want your audience to listen to you, you need strategies to make the opening sentences of your presentation interesting. So you can ask the audience a question, you can give an interesting fact or statistic, and you can show why your presentation is especially interesting or relevant for your audience. In some cultures, people expect business presentations to be formal. They don't believe that an informal presentation can be serious. Other cultures prefer presentations to be informal and think that formal presentations are dull and ineffective. What would you say your culture is like? If you want to give numbers, since large numbers are difficult to understand, you can help your audience by writing them down. When describing large amounts, round the figures up or down as appropriate or give an approximate number. So have a look at the numbers A to H and match them with the expressions for approximate or rounded numbers 1 to 8. Which expression or expressions indicate an amount is relatively small? Which one indicate you think an amount is too much? Put the film on pause, do the exercise, and then think about numbers 2 and 3. If you want to refer to graphs, choose an interesting introduction to the graph. Then refer to the graph and explain what it shows to the others in your group. You may want to use the following phrases. As you can see, you'll notice that this part of the graph clearly shows. When you talk about the content, you will need to use the language of change. So you can talk about increase with verbs and nouns, decrease in the same way, or stability, instability, or you may even want to use prepositions. Be careful because you have to learn them by heart in English to indicate what you're talking about accurately. To talk about change, you can use adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives have the following uses before nouns and after stated verbs, and adverbs have the following uses after verbs or before an adjective, adverb, or past participle. There are also some irregular adverbs, so put the film on pause and have a good look at this. Now do these exercises. So use the adjectives and adverbs, so you can wind back the film and have another look if you want, and then do the exercises. Put the film on pause. When you finish the exercises, start again. I'm now going to show you the answers. Another important thing when you're giving a presentation is stressing important words and pausing. Listen and try to note all the stresses and pauses. The first have been marked for you as examples. The handheld computer is dead, and the future is in smartphones. How do I know? Just look at the figures. As you can see, sales of PDAs have stayed flat at around 11 million units worldwide. What about sales of smartphones? They're rising fast, from just 4 million last year to nearly 12 million this year. The PDA market will never be a mass market. Almost everyone who wants a PDA now has one. Now practice. When you've read this text using the same techniques, go back and check. Did you read slowly and clearly? Did you stress the keywords? Did you pause in the right places? Did you sound enthusiastic? Here's an example. Technology spending by US companies goes in long-term cycles. If you look at the graph, it's clear that big leaps in new technology happen roughly every 15 years. This leads to a spending boom, followed by relative calm. Right now, spending is increasing, but only by 2%. In the late 1990s, growth was 11%, while back in the early 80s, it was as high as 16%. Now we're going to look at two examples of two IT managers who are arguing for an increase in the budget for internet security. Read their arguments. Which makes the case more strongly? Why? Put the film on pause. When you have finished, look at Dervla O'Connor's argument above and decide what phrases are used for the following: to introduce a series of reasons, to introduce different reasons in a sequence, and to repeat the main proposal in the conclusions. So we can say that Dervla makes the case more strongly because her argument is structured. So look at our argument again. The words in bold are the words that should be most stressed when speaking. Practice reading the argument aloud. Stress the words in bold. So here is an example of the text read aloud. I'd like to propose an increase in the budget of 15%. That may seem a lot, but there are two very good reasons why we need this increase. Firstly, because online sales are increasingly important to us. More than 55% of our customers buy via the internet, and this figure is growing every year. But people won't buy online if they're worried about the risks, so we must make sure that our systems are trustworthy. Secondly, because of internet crime. Internet criminals are becoming more and more sophisticated, so we need to increase our efforts in order to stay ahead. That means increasing what we spend on updating and improving our systems. The internet offers enormous benefits to us. If we want to make the most of this potential, we must develop the best possible security systems. That's why I'm proposing a substantial increase in the security budget. So when you want to structure your argument, try to use the following language for giving your reasons. Because of, due to, in order to, so that, the reason is. To finish, let's look at some vocabulary. If you want to start your presentation, you need to welcome everyone warmly, thank the organisers, make a reference to here and now to relax the audience and show your human side. Good morning everyone and thanks for coming, for example. The audience also needs to know whether they should ask questions during or after your presentation. So you could say, my presentation this morning will take around 30 minutes and that will leave plenty of time for questions at the end. And it may be helpful to mention the different areas you will cover. So you could say, for example, I've divided my talk into 3 parts. First, I'll give you an overview of, then I'll look at, and finally, I'll talk in a little more detail about. If you want to start the main presentation, you need to start something to get attention, a question, a visual, a surprising statistic, a story, a quote. For ideas, type business quotes into an internet search engine. So the title of my presentation is, why did I choose this title? Because, so you're very clear from the very outset. You can use a rhetorical question, which is one that you answer yourself. So you're not asking anybody a question really, you're going to answer it yourself. It's a way to get the interest of your audience. So what's the problem? The problem is, for example, if you want to digress and return in the middle of speaking, you often want to talk about something different for a short while. This is called digressing. Afterwards, you return to the main point. To digress for a moment, or then going back to what I was saying before, etc. If you want to change the subject, you need to signal clearly to the audience where one subject ends and the next one begins. You might want to ask for questions before moving on. So you could say, okay, that's all I want to say about. Does anybody have a question? Yes, the gentleman at the back. Yes, the lady over there. And then you'll say, I need to move on to my next point. So here we are. That's the end of the first part of presentations.